There we go. Okay. All right, the room's starting to fill up, so I think I'll get us kicked off. Um,
Yeah, what time do you take this for off?
okay.
Oh, yeah, so he's doing closing lines.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Atlantic Canada Aquaculture Studio webinar. My name is Dylan Terry, and I am with Hatch Blue. Very happy to be joined today by my lovely colleagues and partners at Ocean Advance. So before we get into it, maybe we'll just start off with a round of introductions so everybody knows who's on the webinar today. Um, Shelley and Mary, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. I'm Shelley Peck, the CEO of Oceans Advance here in St. John's, Newfoundland and Labrador. Welcome, everyone.
Mary Tucker, Program Manager at Oceans Advance.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Shelley. Doug, over to you.
Yeah, Doug Phelan, Community Manager, Atlantic Canada with Hatch Blue. And if I'm fading light and dark on my camera, there's something going on in this room. The lights are dimming and not dimming. So, it's not, I'm not changing colors here in real time or anything.
Thanks, Doug. And Wayne.
Hi, everybody. First world problems. What can we say?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm one of the original founders of Hatch. Very excited to kind of share details about this upcoming Atlantic Canada studio. This has been almost 2.5 years in the making. Really excited to be getting it to a stage where we start, recruiting and selecting some great Canadian talent that we can help support and drive further. So I lead all of Hatch's global programming activities, from the accelerator to studios, venture builders. So Dylan and I and Doug are, quite familiar with working with early stage companies and the needs and the desires and the wants and the ambitions that they have to try and drive more success in Canadian aquaculture. So excited to share more about that and attract some of you out there that may be on the fence to come and join us. I think it could be certainly a big time change in how you think about your business and access to global markets. The sector's growing really well. Thank you, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you. And just a bit of housekeeping for everyone in the audience. So we're going to run through a couple of slides now that gives a bit of an overview and background of the program, roughly 20-ish minutes of presentation from the team here, and then we will open it up to an open Q&A session. There is a Q&A box down the bottom of the Zoom. So when we're speaking, if there's anything that comes up, just put your question in the Q&A box, and then I will raise those questions to the panelists here. So make sure you get your questions in. Anything that's on your mind about the program or what we're talking about, drop it in the Q&A box, and we'll be sure to address it. And with that, let me just share my screen, and we will jump into this short presentation. We have done the introductions already, so I'll move on from that. Maybe over to you, Wayne, to introduce Hatch Blue, and then followed by Shelley to talk about this partnership between our two entities in delivering this program.
Sure, thank you, Dylan. I guess where we see Hatch Blue right now and what its role is in this sector is a catalyst to drive change in this sector, but also uniquely as a niche investor in global aquaculture. We started over 9 years ago with one program where we started off with an accelerator. We invested our own money in the first iteration. And since then, it's grown from just one program to this year, we'll deliver 9 global studios, engaging with some amazing global aquaculture talent. We've raised over $130 million to date in terms of focusing and investing exclusively in this sector. And I'm really excited to kind of start engaging with more and more Canadian talent. We've been very fortunate in investing in a number of Canadian companies already to date who have proven real quality. And I hope this studio will uncover some more great talent Importantly, that followed by investment to stimulate and scale these organizations from in terms of benefiting Canada's ocean opportunity. And over those kind of next 2 weeks, when we deliver the program, you're going to be exposed to a lot of great thinking, great mentors, and really getting an understanding of your business and where it needs to get to. So we've got lots of network which we built over the last 9 years, which we hope to bring to your attention and hopefully support you as you scale your businesses further.
Yeah. Thank you, Wayne. Over to you, Shelley.
Thank you, Dylan. Oceans Advance, we are the industry association for ocean technology here in Newfoundland and Labrador. We've expanded our network and our membership to include some companies from outside of the province. We're focusing on Atlantic Canada as a whole. We do a lot of national and international work as part of Atlantic Canada. And it just made sense for Oceans Advance to take on this project working with Hatch Blue, and Wayne and his team were really excited to be here. We see it as an opportunity for our companies to diversify into new markets, diversify technology, provide technology solutions that will solve some of the challenges in today's aquaculture world. Food sustainability is a really big challenge for us. We're here in Newfoundland as an island nation, so understanding that food insecurity and food instability is front and center on our minds all the time. We see the value of aquaculture, helping grow our economy, helping grow our people, and supporting the growth of the technologies, the aquatechnology sector here in Newfoundland. It makes sense for us to be here working with Hatch to deliver the program that they deliver throughout the world. They've had many successes, and we're just excited to be part of that. We are looking for companies from Newfoundland and Labrador and the rest of Atlantic Canada, the other 3 provinces. We work with a lot of technology companies throughout the world, and we're excited to bring some of that technology into this sector, and then to help grow that aquaculture sector for Atlantic Canada, and then branch that out to the rest of Canada in years to come.
Yeah, thank you, Shelley. It's an exciting partnership between the 2 firms in the region.
For sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think because Hatch Blue are relatively new from a program perspective to Atlantic Canada, we just wanted to do a couple more slides on Hatch Blue so the audience knows who we are and where we're coming from. So with that, Wayne, I'll hand it over to you for the next couple of slides to introduce Hatch Blue in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, thank you, Dylan. I guess, as I mentioned a little earlier, Hatch started off as an accelerator fund. We launched the world's first aquaculture accelerator back in 2017. And since then, we've morphed into something quite different in terms of the range of activities, focus, services that we supply to global aquaculture. We are very niche, and I think that niche focus has given us I believe, a superpower in terms of really understanding the sector, the opportunities, the challenges, the bottlenecks, and building out ecosystems globally. We've been working very hard on enabling that to happen. But within Hatch, we're quite a internally synergistic organization. Right now, we've got 3 different units that work on different things. Obviously, as an investor, we've raised over $130 million to date. And we hope to, increase that significantly over the coming years. Again, it's a very niche focus on aquaculture. So, we've made about 82 investments to date. So we've learned a lot about scaling a business in global aquaculture. We've learned and experienced, highs and lows, successes and failures. And this is where I guess this program that is on offer here for the selected candidates is hopefully going to give you a jump start in terms of being able to get to the things that will scale and grow and help you raise money and be successful with your technology. We do that through, as I mentioned, the investment team, where they bring all that investor readiness advice and what they're looking for in the business. The consulting arm of Hatch, again, is deep domain expertise, bringing, I think it's over 70 years of aquaculture experience to the table. And then on the programming side, we lead all the innovation studios, the engagement with entrepreneurs, the building out of networks and introductions, and really kind of feeding back to you guys who will be part of the program in terms of what the competition looks like out there. What are the challenges in different markets and different species? Again, coming back to this unique niche focus that we have, I genuinely believe that it brings a lot of real commercial value to those companies seeking to grow their business, not just in Atlantic Canada. Aquaculture is a global business. And I know from other programs that we've delivered, this investment, this consulting, this programmatic knowledge and expertise, we would hope is going to really accelerate the talent that we know is in Canada to help you get to a global stage where your technology is seeing the light of day and having the impact that we all wanted to have. So those three strands, again, are quite synergistic. You can probably see when you think about it, it feeds into each other quite nicely. And ultimately, it's to find more great technologies having the impact that we wanted to have and driving the sustainable production of seafood into the future to meet the obviously growing demand for protein out there as populations increase. Next slide, Dylan. When I see this picture or this kind of slide, we share this on nearly every conversation we have. And this is, I guess, Shelley alluded to it earlier in terms of the partnership that we have. Ocean Advance have an amazing knowledge and expertise of the local infrastructure, the local ecosystem, the local supports. But aquaculture is truly a global industry. And as you can see where all those dots are, it brings back painful memories of all the flights I've made to all these places and the whole Hatch team in terms of engaging with companies, delivering programs, attracting investment, and many of these dots are portfolio companies. So you can see globally, and you know, for you guys who are contemplating applying for the program, your time is very, very valuable. So what I'm suggesting to you is this global perspective that the Hatch team of almost 40 people has is open to your and access is open to you, your team, in terms of what plans you have for scaling and the strategies you're looking to build, and dipping into, you know, the industry connections that we have, the investor following that we have, and also, you know, market competition, market opportunity. We've done a lot of work around that with our consultancy team over the years. So this map here certainly is a sense of pride for me as the founder of Hatch and just how much we've expanded and where we're operating. And we hope during the 2 weeks and beyond of this studio that we're really going to help you dip into this global knowledge and opportunity as you seek to scale and develop your business further. Next slide, Dylan, please. And I guess just in terms of credibility, we are a very humble organization in a sense that, you know, we're very focused on you know, enabling great talent to, you know, develop the technologies necessary to have an impact. The wonderful thing for me about Hatch is there is lots of really major problems in the industry and a lot of negative kind of talk in some quarters about, you know, aquaculture. A lot of it is ill-informed. But what I really love about Hatch and what we do is that we focus on investing in those innovations that challenge and fix those bottlenecks and those negative aspects of aquaculture production, be it disease, be it alternative feed, be it you know, sensors, genetics. You know, when I think of aquaculture, I don't think of a fish farm or a seaweed farm or an oyster farm. I think cold chain logistics. I think finance. I think genetics. I think alternative seafood, alternative proteins. It's a huge gamut of different types of technologies that we're interested in. And as this slide kind of shares with you, we've invested in over 80 companies globally today. We've got 130 million plus in funding available to invest in this talent. So we've learned a lot in terms of what's going on out there. As a program unit, I'm sure you can imagine we've dealt with, you know, hundreds of founders, you know, similar to you, maybe watching here or going to maybe contemplating joining this program. In terms of, we really understand the challenge of this sector and building a business there. We can almost predict what you need to be doing and how you need to do it. And I think that learning, that mentor network that we built is incredibly strong and very niche. This is probably the only program that you guys may attend or get access to that every conversation in the room is about the aquaculture industry, which is incredibly valuable. The alumni network, as I said, every program that we've run, thankfully, the guys and girls have reflected on the inputs that we've been able to generate for them and the positive impact it's had on their businesses. And we're hoping that that experience, knowledge and network, including previous participants that we will look to hook you guys up with, really kind of demonstrate that this is a community that we're building. This Canadian ecosystem is going to be very powerful and very impactful and innovative. And, from a fund perspective also, these companies that have joined our program, I think 300 million is probably an under estimated figure, but skipping out of our program, a lot of the companies that have raised significant amounts of capital, and maybe for you guys who are raising, this could be a wonderful opportunity to extend your investor network. And, that's certainly something that Dylan and I and Shelley and the whole team that's coming together to support you guys out there. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of wins, and we do need to see successes, and that's going to be our focus. Next slide. So as I mentioned, when I think of aquaculture, it's not necessarily just sitting on an oyster farm or a seaweed farm and what that involves in terms of primary production. Where we operate is at the intersection between, driving more efficient production of aquaculture species. And that goes through technology in terms of cutting edge technology, production systems, novel farming systems, the utilization. Everybody, you're sick of hearing about AI, but automation, that's a key challenge in global aquaculture in terms of bottleneck. And then, improving the genetics of species, making them more efficient, disease resistant. And this, global phenomenon these days where, the ocean is increasing in temperature, these species need to adapt. And, any technology that can combat those kind of challenges are going to have lots of attention and lots of investment opportunity in health and genetics, in enhancing livestock. And we ultimately want to see more farmers, driving more profit. Typically in most regions, the farmers are the ones that receive the least amount of money for all the hard work that they do. So, be able to provide them with more tools and technologies and insight and advice around how the husbandry of these animals is critical. And that goes into, things like vaccine development, diagnostics, automating that whole process, genomics and breeding, as I mentioned already, but also, water quality. It's the most important part of any species, be it seaweed, be it oysters, be it, finfish, the quality of the environment in which they live. And how we can help improve that is a key part of, our search for great innovations out there. Nutrition, obviously, is another piece, how we feed these animals, giving them better quality alternative proteins, more carbon efficient sources of protein. Regenerative aquaculture is something that we've been really focusing on. I'm in Singapore this week, where we're focusing on the blue carbon program and engaging companies that are restoring mangroves and seagrass and, technologies that can measure carbon sequestration. This is a huge area of development. And the blue carbon space is our third blue carbon program in Southeast Asia. So any companies that have an interest in that sector, we've got oodles of experience and knowledge and network from, really big industry players who are seeking to be net zero in the decades to come. And then, of course, for you, founders out there looking to drive revenues, you really need to understand the market that you're attacking and what that looks like, be it the competitive landscape or the value proposition or the challenges, the cultural expertise and differences. It takes a lot of understanding to successfully launch a global business. And we're very fortunate in that we've seen many of these throughout the last 8 or 9 years that Hatch has been helping to support and scale early stage technology companies. Next slide. I'm almost done.
Yeah, I think that's the last Hatch Blue slide. So thank you very much, Wayne. Appreciate you giving that background. We might bring you back in a little bit to talk more about the program.
No worries, Dylan.
Yeah, thank you. And with that, with our crew based in Atlantic Canada and Newfoundland, who better than Shelley to talk about why Atlantic Canada and the opportunity there. So over to you, Shelley.
Thank you, Dylan. I've alluded to this in my introduction there, why Atlantic Canada. We have the expertise here, we have the infrastructure, we have amazing facilities, we have a network of partners, we are very closely aligned in our sector, in the development and the collaborations amongst our industry associations. We work really closely with the Newfoundland and Labrador Aquaculture Industry Association. They're part of this project. They're on our advisory committee. You know, we just an hour ago had a chat with them about this program. They're really excited to support us. They're bringing the people to the table to help us with the mentorship part of our studio. You know, we have an opportunity to grow a sector here that has the bare bones here, and now we can make that more impactful, providing technology solutions, providing applications, providing the infrastructure supports needed to grow this sector, to help Canada grow a alternative source of protein, as Wayne has talked about as well as part of that aquaculture industry. You know, we are really excited to be part of this and host this in Atlantic Canada and look at ways that our companies can diversify technologies to support this growing sector and create the importance that it does need here. And part of the work that we're doing here in Atlantic Canada, we have an amazing supportive regulatory regime. We have a group of industry folks and industry supports that are keen to grow the sector throughout the Atlantic region. And I think it's just the right time for us to start this here in Atlantic Canada. And then, of course, our longer term plan is to put this throughout Canada. So
Nice.
we have a big plan.
Big plans ahead. Absolutely. Thank you, Shelley. And just for anyone who's joined in the meantime, as a reminder, we're going to be running through a couple more slides here about the program. But if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A box and we'll address them at the end in the Q&A section. So just a reminder there. Thank you, Shelley. And now I'm going to bring in Doug, as the community manager for this program, to go through some more of the details around what this is and what does it mean for some of the potential founders that are sitting on the call today. So over to you, Doug.
Hi, so welcome again. Again, it's Doug Phelan, the community manager in Atlantic Canada. So I'll be moving about the region during this program. Look, I think as Dylan and Wayne and Shelley have all alluded to, the fact that this is a unique opportunity, that the whole studio is focused particularly on this sector. It's not like one of these things that you attend and there's 5 different sectors in there. You're struggling to get a little bit of people's attention or time. I've spent a little bit of time with the company now, and I've seen a little bit of how things operate. The advantage can't be understated of having the access to the mentors, the global network, the opportunity. You'll obviously spend time refining your pitch, but it's not just about the pitch. It's about helping you direct where your company is headed in the future. A lot of the things that come out of these sessions, it's not just where you're directing your investment, but maybe where you shouldn't be directing your investment, making sure that you're on the right pathway forward. There's obviously no financial cost to take place, but we're very respectful that you give up your time to take part in this. So we put together a very, very good program. You're going to have access to the best people at Hatch who've got the network throughout the globe. You have access to mentors who've been on the path. You'll hear from people who've been in your shoes and have been at the same position in life with their business and that have made it through and have progressed to really develop into something. And I can't understate as well. I spent a lot of time in the international business world in my past life, getting ahead of myself in the truest sense of the word. But the network you'll build among your peers as well does have a value in this. Being in a shared room with 9 other businesses that are in the same place as you are and having your journey together. And then the follow-up part, which is where you'll probably get sick of seeing and hearing from me, it's not a program that just takes you in at the doorstep and leaves you at the back step. There's the, 8 months afterward of the follow-up to make sure things are happening and that you're on the right path taken. So uh, it's as comprehensive as a piece as I've seen before. It's what has attracted me to it. And I've been in the world of international business a long time. And in the truest sense, I can say this is the piece that has been missing for this sector and for moving forward.
Awesome. Thank you, Doug. I know you touched on some of this stuff, but is there anything else you want to cover here?
No, I think as I said, it's the fact you take part in with your peers, but you do get the individualized attention that focuses on your business. I can't understate, that alumni network, the fact that you've seen that map that shows the Hatch Blue reach throughout the world. A very, very small part of this sector is in your backyard. The most of it is not in your backyard. And getting that access to people who are outside of your backyard and know the path through the woods, very important. And the support with your strategy, with where you're going forward, it is a complete piece.
Super. Thank you, Doug. I might just touch on this. So Wayne
Yep.
discussed earlier some of the focus areas of Hatch Blue and where we have expertise. I think within those areas, there's certain parts that we're especially excited for the opportunity within Atlantic Canada. And these are some of the focus areas that we'd love to see, applications come in. Whether that's sustainable feed, salmon farming technologies, anything around health, genetics, and disease. Um, Ocean-derived products, and that's quite an intentionally broad topic. That can be, for example, whether we're looking at macroalgae, microalgae, fish byproducts, waste products, side streams that are coming from the ocean that can be turned into new, exciting, higher value products is an area we're certainly very excited by. Um, General aquaculture technologies across different species, anything that helps make the sector more sustainable, more efficient, more autonomous is something that would get us quite excited. And then anything around bio-based materials and fuels, there's some emerging biomaterial stuff coming out of the region. And I think that sector and that industry is something that we're excited by. So anything in that space as well, we'd love to see. If you're in the room and you're wondering, I'm working on this and it doesn't fit into these buckets, drop a question in the Q&A. I saw one come in already, which we will address at the end. But if you're wondering, oh, I don't know if I fit into this, just drop us a note and we'll address it at the end and tell you specifically if you're relevant to this or not. So, okay. Over to you again, Doug, just to cover some of these maybe more logistical parts of the program.
Sure. It is limited to 10 companies. Five of them will be from Newfoundland and Labrador, and five will be from the remaining Atlantic provinces. I mentioned the follow-up part. So, I mean, it's a 9-month program to the studio. You should see the studio as not an ending, but it's your beginning. And that's the intense piece. But as I said, you're not just left at the back door. Afterward, there's the whole follow-up piece. There are people as part of this who've refined pitches very, very well and will help you. And there'll be a lot of guidance as to where the path to finding investors if that's what you're looking for. Again, I'd mentioned already there's no cost and there's no equity given up to be part of this, but we are, again, respectful of your time and we'll put together a very good program. Again, access to the entire network. Right now, there's, Hatch Blue has 35 people and we're all over the world. And you do get the introduction to that network. And there will be an industry day. I think it's touched on one of the further slides here at the end, where there's a gathering to kind of celebrate where this sector is in the region and a chance to spend time with your peers.
Yeah. Thank you, Doug. I might just cover this. So I don't think we had the dates at the start, but the program as Doug referred to, kicks off with a 2-week studio, which is July 13th to 23rd in St. John's, Newfoundland. And on that program, there's going to be a combination of global mentorship sessions, some of the stuff that Wayne and Doug has talked about already, but also like a deep immersion in the local and regional aquaculture sector, bringing in key decision makers and stakeholders from local farms, actually going out and visiting and getting in the water and seeing some fish and being there and getting to speak with the people that are working in the industry locally. And that's a very important part of this. And then the final day of the program will culminate with an industry day, which will be a industry-wide stakeholder event in St. John's, where select companies from the program will get the opportunity to showcase their technology to the room. So it's a huge opportunity for companies who are looking to get wider industry exposure to some of the senior decision makers at the local and regional level. So quite a big opportunity and something I think to be very excited about as part of this program. Okay, I noted some questions coming in, so I think I'm going to move forward and try and get it to Q&A as soon as possible, guys. We've touched on this before, but I think briefly there's going to be ongoing support post the 2-person or the 2-week in-person studio. Over 9 months, companies will get one-to-one support from the global network and team around go-to-market scaling and fundraising, as well as monthly group-wide mentorship sessions. The summit is going to be on the final day of the program, as I touched on already. A kind of really cool event and a big exposure opportunity for companies within the program. Yeah, maybe Wayne, you would touch on this in terms of like when you think about a company, when you think about the type of person, the type of team, what are you looking to see? What are you looking to see coming through from those teams?
Okay, I think from my perspective, I think a clear message I want to get across, and I've been involved in startup development for the last 2 decades. I've been very old now, but this is you may expect me to say this, but this is not just another program. Many of you have already been on accelerators or different types of locally supported startup innovation programs. The key thing, and I mentioned it earlier, from a Hatch perspective, we are a niche investor and developer of aquaculture technology. The conversations in the room are going to be people that have decades of experience and network that could turn your business over in the blink of an eye in terms of an introduction. This is why all those 500, 600 plus companies that have gone through our programs over the last 8 or 9 years, every program has received, thankfully, really great feedback in terms of value that it's brought to these companies. Many of them have pivoted as a result of the insight and advice that they've received from the mentors that we bring in, who are also equally motivated and excited to support the kind of companies that are developing these new technologies. And many of them really dedicated and focused on wanting to see more Canadian wins and successes. So I just want to make that point very clear. And you'd expect me to say it as I said, but we've done it so often now that we can see, before our eyes, how companies can change and how they can really leverage the insight and the knowledge of Ocean Advance, of ACOA, of the supercluster, of Hatch's global reach. So you're getting the best of both worlds in terms of support. And we really, and I think you'll get a sense of us, we're very passionate about this space. We want to see more great technologies getting to market and having the impact that we all want to see. We want to attract, and this is something we've been working on for a long time now, is in attracting more investors into the sector in terms of the real value and opportunity that exists in this being the fastest growing food sector in the world today. plugging into that for you as a founder sitting somewhere in an obscure part of Atlantic Canada. This is an opportunity for you to jump on an amazing platform of like-minded people, companies that are, also trying to do the same thing and achieve the same thing you're trying to achieve. But married with that local support from Ocean Advance and all the local, startup supports, and then tapping into that global opportunity. So if you're a founder who is trying to figure out your next steps or looking to maybe, market their technology into different markets and you don't know how to do that or what that looks like, if you're a company with traction or just an amazing innovative technology that maybe is not that well developed, but you're looking to get that support, we welcome those applications. And then also those who are maybe in adjacent industries and that have technologies that could be applied to global aquaculture. And we're as a group, in terms of Hatch, at least from an investment perspective, acutely aware of the kind of technologies potentially that could be applied into aquaculture from other maybe more kind of seasoned or mature ecosystems like agri-tech or fintech or those kind of sectors. Aquaculture is growing, and I know that there's lots of great ideas out there that could be just redirected into our space, and there's an opportunity to generate some significant opportunity. And as I've said and we've said a number of times, I find that most companies in various different parts of the world, they really don't lift their eyes from their local focus. If you want scale and you want to attract investors, your market opportunity needs to be significant. You validate your technology and your trials and your sales in your home market for sure. But then, how are you going to scale that? And I think we will be able to provide lots of the answers for that with our network in terms of the schedule of people that are going to come in and talk to you. Dylan and I can almost see, the end results already in terms of we've done this so often. So really this call for me today and engaging with you guys is saying, number one, go and apply. Get engaged with Ocean Advance and Hatch in terms of, the technology that you have. We will happily engage with you and assess whether this is something that we can assist with, and we want to add value to as many companies as we can. If we can add value, we'd be soon enough to tell you. But the first step, guys, is getting that application in and getting into our network and getting, into this platform, which I believe will position the 10 selected companies on a whole new level globally, because there'll be a lot of eyes and ears, looking at this Atlantic Canada studio. So first step is you got to click that button, and then, we'll be there. We won't be shy about how we're going to commit full time to supporting you and your successes. And that's what we've done in almost every program that we've delivered over the last 9 years.
Yeah. Thank you, Wayne. Last thing just to note on this is that, and a question came in the chat about this around researchers or early stage concepts. This program is not built for like pre-MVP or very early stage technologies. However, what I would say is that this program, under its initial structure, is going to be running for 2 years. So this is year 1 of 2. So if you are in that early stage working on a technology that's not ready or is not at the MVP stage, reach out to us, stay in touch, and who knows, maybe next year this program would be a better fit for you. Shelley, if I am in Vancouver and I have a salesperson in St. John's, am I registered and operating enough in the region to be relevant for this program?
No, you are not. You have to be operating, have a presence in Atlantic Canada. You have to be, if you're federally incorporated, that's fine, but we still want to see that presence in Atlantic Canada. We want to see that value, the net value coming back to this region. So having a company in the west coast of Canada is great. We'll see you in 3 years.
Yeah. Super. Thanks, Shelley. Some good questions coming in. I see them. We're about to get to them. So if anyone else has a question, get it in. And then maybe lastly, Shelley, a note to some of our supporters here to make this
Absolutely.
happen. Over
Yeah,
to you.
I mean, we wouldn't be here, of course, without Hatch, and you guys developing the programming that you have and having the successes that you have made this project so attractive to all of us here in Atlantic Canada. We have amazing support through the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, champions at ACOA, Newfoundland and Labrador, definitely made this program and project happen. We're very grateful for that opportunity to be a collaborator as part of that. Canada's Ocean Supercluster came on board unsolicited, so they were excited to be part of this. They're the Supercluster are traveling the world promoting Canada as having the expertise in many subsectors, aquaculture being one of those, and the opportunity for growth in this sector, and supporting the Ambition 2035 goals for creating value for Canada's ocean economy. And the government of Newfoundland and Labrador excited to be part of this, and hence the reason why that this is supported. This is happening here in Newfoundland and Labrador, but with the collaboration of the 3 other Atlantic provinces. And Oceans Advance, myself and Mary on board supporting this program, invested in the success. So we're all really happy with the support that we have, with the partnerships that we've created. We've partnerships outside of this through PEI Bio Alliance, through the Newfoundland and Labrador Aquaculture Industry Association, through some partnerships and supports with some of the local aquaculture companies. So we're really happy to bring that huge network of folks together to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more, Shelley. Thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to stop sharing now, and we've got lots of questions coming through in the chat. So I'm going to start raising some of those questions to our panel here. So one question came in, maybe I'll give this to you, Wayne. We are wondering about the focus on seafood, or is there room for products that are geared for land-based agriculture? Thank you.
It's an interesting question, and I think I kind of alluded to it briefly earlier in terms of technologies that could be applied from other sectors that may have an application in aquaculture. We really do welcome those ideas. The whole point of this initiative is to build that ecosystem of innovation and support for ideas. And if you're trying to figure out how best to scale your organization, your technology, and your market, this is a wonderful, community to bounce that off, because we've seen it obviously in different parts of the world. Land-based production of seafood is growing in terms of the numbers of land-based systems that are happening globally. The whole licensing issue of putting pens in water in Atlantic Canada, in Canada, is an issue, and it's the same in other parts of the world. So there's been a real shift more and more to land-based production systems, not just for finfish, but seaweed and other species, and that's a growing trend that we're looking to support. But the unit economics of those kind of land-based systems is probably the biggest challenge. So energy and different methodologies and how you produce these things is becoming a real bottleneck for that land-based production. I was talking to a company here in Singapore earlier today, Vertical Oceans, and they produce prawns in the middle of an industrial estate here in Singapore. And their harvest was this morning, and the local population comes and buys fresh produce just harvested not 5 minutes ago. So there's a real opportunity for these land-based ideas and technologies. And at the same time, we welcome those conversations of companies operating in different industries to see how we can say, hey, we know how this could work in our sector. And I think that's the benefit of this kind of group that we pulled together between Ocean Advance, the Supercluster, ourselves, ACOA, and others, in terms of, where we have a real focus on commercial opportunity. That's how I see Hatch a lot of the time in terms of being that catalyst to drive innovation and find opportunity and exploit it for commercial gain. And that's the definition of an entrepreneurship. And, you know, we just want to find those guys and girls with these ideas. And we welcome you reaching out. This is a long-term play for us of support. We're not going to fix everything in 2 weeks of a program. Doug's involvement in supporting you post-program is a key part of this initiative. You know, Rome wasn't built in a day. And, you know, you're going to need a lot of hand-holding, introduction, support, knowledge and expertise for you to build your business and scale it further from where it is currently.
Yeah. Thank you, Wayne. And I would just add one final thing to that question, which may be related, that there are some areas that overlap oceans and agriculture that we're very excited in by Hatch Blue, specifically areas like the biostimulant opportunity, using algae and different seaweed to produce better crop returns in the agricultural space. It's something that we're excited by. So just another little crossover there that we're excited by. Okay, let me see. Next question. Maybe to you, Shelley. So there's no cost or no equity for this program. But what does the funding support cover? Like, do I have travel costs covered or accommodation or what other supports are there supports for companies participating?
Good question. What we have through the funding support that we have, if you sign up and you're accepted to be part of this cohort program, we'll pay for your travel here to Newfoundland. We will pay for your hotel, your meals, any travel within New St. John's and any day trips that we do. And of course, as Doug has mentioned a few times, there is a cost to you for your time. We don't compensate for that, but you will get the compensation back in the exposure, in the learning, in the mentorship, in the access, in all of the things that will happen to you and your company and your technology as you run through this 10-day cohort program.
Okay, super. And maybe another one for you, Shelley, while I have you. If a company already has OSC support or Ocean Supercluster support, are they still eligible for the studio?
100%. This is not a stacking rule. This is nothing to do with that. There's no limitations. Like if you have money from the provincial government, if you have money from a COA, if you have money from the supercluster, it does not interfere with this project and the running of this and the supports that we will provide to the companies, to the 10 selected companies to participate.
Super. Thanks, Shelley. There's a question in here that I might take myself, which is around the application process. So somebody asked if are companies assessed solely on their application or will there be interviews, follow-up questions, etc. So the interview process and the selection process will be made up of multiple stages and different rounds of assessment. So the initial stage is the application that's live on our website, answer some questions, upload some supporting documents, and then all relevant teams will be contacted by Doug for an initial conversation. And then if we see potential in you post that conversation, we'll then go into more of a formal interview process with the different stakeholders involved here. So to answer your question, there will be multiple steps and there will be conversations had with all relevant teams. Okay. Another question here, maybe for Doug. So Doug, what types of activities are going to be involved in the program? Someone mentioned earlier about potentially visiting a site. What are we going to be doing while we're in St. John's? And maybe you could also talk about what the day will look like, the commitment, for example.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, it's a commitment of a full day, just as if it was your full work day. And there'll be some parts of it that are going to be general to the whole group, where we have a specific specific person body, and that's the knowledge will be applicable to everyone. There's obviously going to be some breakout sessions, some smaller group sessions. We'll have some mentors that are going to spend some one-on-one time with the group. You're going to get introduced to the Hatch network of people who are there will be some people who are not going to be or going to will not be there for the full time, but they will be in for a day or two, and that allows us to bring in the most experts possible and extract just the most relevant information from them. You don't want to have one or two people there that are the only people you hear from for 8 or 9 days. You want to hear a really good person, get everything you can out of them, and have another person come in. And then again, a lot of work with experts on helping some individual attention to drive your company. There is a day off there in the middle of it. I believe it's the Sunday, because we know everyone works really hard. You do need a day to recoup. And on the Saturday of the session, we're putting it together, but we'll call it I don't know if field trip is the right word, but everyone will know each other well enough by then that we can call it a field trip. We're going to get out and spend a little bit of time in the real world around the site. And then on that final day, it will be the final day, the 23rd, will be actually a half day session. Will be the industry day where we gather everyone. The guests come in at probably about 8:30 for a little light breakfast. Then we'll have a 3-hour session, and then we'll wrap it up. And we say our goodbyes, but for some of us, it's not going to be goodbye. It's just going to be just the beginning. Mm-hmm. That's the 30,000 foot level of it. But judging, I think Dylan and Wayne, Shelley, Mary, it's fair to say from who we've looked at so far that we've got coming in potentially as mentors, and that it is an all-star lineup that's coming in to be involved in this.
Absolutely, Doug. Another question here: when will applicants be notified? So the application deadline is the end of this month, the 29th of May is when applications close. And then we will look to have all participants selected within roughly 2 weeks of the application close. So you're talking mid-June by the time successful applicants will be notified, which will give you just about a month to get ready to come to St. John's. There's a question here: do Hatch Blue plan to do same programs for other locations in Canada? I think Shelley alluded to that earlier. Yes, we would all hope to grow this to different parts of Canada. There's a huge opportunity, I think, to develop more technology and innovation across not just Atlantic Canada, but right now we're all in on Atlantic Canada as a region, and that's where all of our resources are going to. That's where we see the opportunity. Okay, let me see. Any other questions? Okay, there's another question here. Let me pull it up. So, Wayne, over to you. Based on your experience of running these projects globally, from a participant perspective, what's the number one thing that they consistently underestimate about the program? Great question. Thank you, Michael, for sending it in.
Yeah, I think they underestimate the opportunity that the program presents to the teams. They underestimate the people in the room and how they build relationships with these people. For example, we're in the middle of delivering a program here in Singapore. Not one of those teams reached out to me or Dylan or Ben or any of the Hatch team in advance of the program, saying, I really look forward to hearing from you and your presentation and being, talking to you about my company. Startup is really difficult. And lots of startups really don't think about, how they position themselves to attract a following and champions that are going to bring their business to the heights that they expect it to get to. And I think they really don't think about, how they look, how they walk, and how they talk about their business. Typically, the presentations that they share or how they talk about their companies are, if I'm being brutally honest, is pretty boring. And typical of any startup presentation. If you want to be successful, if you want to attract the kind of investment that you're looking for, if you want to bring, attract the kind of customers that you need and want to acquire, if you want to attract real great talent to your team, in terms of the various, technical requirements in terms of growing and scaling your business. I really don't think companies and early stage startups don't think enough about how they're perceived on the other side, people looking at them. And they need to get better at engaging with these network champions. And I mean, major powerhouses that can put you in a blink of an eye in front of somebody who could change the face of your business. And they don't work hard enough or smart enough to really put their best foot forward. And I love it when someone reaches out to me before a program kicks off. So you guys listening that might be selected, I'm expecting your LinkedIn invite. But really understanding the people and how you need to operate and how you need to build those long-term relationships with the people that are going to be involved in this Atlantic Canada studio. There's some amazing experienced, well-connected people, and you've got to work your ass to avail of that and make sure that you benefit from it. That'll be, for me, the number one thing that teams typically underestimate or don't pay enough attention to.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks, Wayne. Final question maybe for both Shelley and Doug. What would make an application stand out in your perspective? What are you looking to see from applications? Maybe starting with you, Shelley.
Good question. Obviously, I want to see companies from Atlantic Canada, but I want to see companies that have the potential to grow and scale. Looking at diversification of technology is really exciting for us. That adjacent technologies, whether you have an application for oil and gas, offshore wind, and now you look at it and you say, I'd like to transfer that technology application into aquaculture. I'd like to support the growth of the aquaculture sector. I think that to me would be the ultimate applicants that we see would have that's what we're looking for as part of Oceans Advance and supporting our membership that.
Yeah, and I'd say on my end, guys, I'd say it's commitment. In Atlantic Canada, and I've been around this game a long time, we're all really good at going to trade shows and going to lots of trade shows. Trade show does so much. I want to see the commitment where someone wants to get down in the weeds, get their hands dirty, and really get serious about getting into the market that's out there. Everyone can be an all-star for 1 week at a trade show. The other 51 weeks of the year, what's going on? And the commitment to go and commit to the studio, commit to the follow-up, it really shows you're serious, that this is not a hobby. You're in it for the long haul and to really make a difference.
I'd like to change my answer now, please.
Super, guys.
You're perfectly entitled to do that, Shelley.
Okay. Anything final, team, before we wrap this up? I think if there's nothing else.
Just very briefly for me, and I know particularly for Dylan and I, I've been in these programs for a long time. The people that we were gathering to bring together to support the chosen few, but not just them, all the applicants, the challenge and the strategy and the ambition for OA and the supercluster and ACOA and Newfoundland Labrador government is that we want to find great companies and support them and build out that ecosystem and a platform that can enable them to go and reach their full potential. There's some great talent, as I said, some great people from around the aquaculture industry globally that are going to come to St. John's and pass on their ideas, their strategies, their insights and knowledge. And we're very excited about that, as indeed they are, in supporting what's the most important thing in this whole space is innovation. And entrepreneurs who are developing these innovations. And that's where our complete focus is going to be. And I'm very excited to see what that cohort looks like and how they're going to progress over the months and years ahead with our support.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Wayne. For everyone in the room, I've just put the application link or the program website into the chat. So if you want to get more details, it's there. Any questions, you can reach Doug or Douglas at hatch.blue is his email address, or reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. I'm very happy to connect and answer more questions. So with that, I will thank all of our panelists today for speaking and sharing more details. Thanks to everyone for joining. Hope to see you all in Newfoundland soon. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Dylan. Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
people.
Thanks.